go. All right, you'll have to imagine that with a tongue for right now. Now that I have some color on this under 21, let me go ahead and create one last painting pass, and we are at 1257, so we're going to do an OK. And I'm just going to call this stripes. And for this, I'm going to mask out first. Because I want to see how this is going to lay out and affect everything before I actually commit it to Polypaint. I don't think I'm going to have it wrap all the way around. It's going to be a little bit more like this little incomplete stripe that comes down towards the edges of the skin. Maybe we'll do something weird in the front like this. It's going to take a little bit of work to make that work. Give them kind of tiger stripes. I don't know if I'm crazy about that. Let's connect those. Thought it was going to be cool, and I was like, no, it's not cool. I think that works. All right. And there we go. All right, so now I'm going to play at the size of this by using grow and shrink. Or actually, I'm sorry, soften edge and harden edge. So I'm going to step down on my subdivisions and invert my mask. I want to grow this masking selection out. So I'm going to hold down Control and tap. And when you do that, it's going to soften the edge of the mask, right? But it's actually going to bleed out this way. It's going to eat into the masked area. So then you invert it, and you hold down Control and Alt, and you sharpen it, holding down Control and Alt, tapping on the mask, and then now that makes the pattern a little bit larger, right? So once you have that mask, you can play with the actual amount of area that it's covering when you're playing with patterns. So the reason why I want to grow it is because I want an external color. Let's do this one more time. And then I'm going to have that lighter internal color. Oh, looks like I'm losing it a little bit right there. And in through here too. Do I mind that? Yeah, I mind that. So let's redo that, and then I'm just going to have to subtract from that part of the mask. Control and Alt. I kind of like that in the front. Oh, for sure. I mean, color and texture. I mean, you can you can have a horrible color or horrible character sometimes, and the right color and texture can really save it. So this character was very simple. The silhouette was okay. I wasn't completely crazy about it. I'm not married to him yet, and I'm trying to find it. But you get the right colors on there, and it really helps. So I just sampled that darkest color. I'm going to hit Control H to hide my mask. My draw size. Let's take the focal shift. And I'm going to keep these settings for right now because I want the variation in there. And then let's hit Control H so we can see our mask again. I'm going to invert my mask. I'm going to go ahead so I can see my mask. I'm going to turn off the Polypaint, turn off that brush icon, and let's go back here so we can see the mask. And I'm going to soften the mask and then sharpen the mask. It looks like I'm losing part of my mask here. Let's turn that back on because I want to see the difference between the masked area and the unmasked area, which is looking alright. Step up. Do you do any of your texturing with mask by cavities and those other masking buttons? Yes, I do, but I'm not doing it on this just yet. So I'll tell you why. Because it's sort of like a shadow fake when you do stuff like that. I mean, at least when you're trying to like do darks and lights, and the darks in your cavities, lights on your peaks. But yeah, I do. To pull out like scale detail, I definitely use that a lot. Or if I have a character that has a lot of wrinkles and folds and I really want to punch them. But you can also do the same thing by applying an ambient occlusion map, right? We'll have that same effect. But you can do other cool things, like if you're doing like volcanic rock and you want the interior to be bright and orange and the surface to be dark, mask by cavity definitely helps. Alright, so let's run with what I have here. I'm going to go ahead and now select that lighter color. And you know what? This time I'm going to go back to dots. I'm going to turn off that alpha and just get this nice and clean. And these patterns on fish, I don't know, I didn't realize it until I always looked at tropical fish and stuff like that in books as a kid. And when I actually started diving and snorkeling and going and looking in the wild, these patterns are never, they're never 100% sharp, like graphically sharp, right? They have a bleed, so I don't mind this little bit of sort of pixelization in my pattern. I'll end up blending that out. So let's clear our mask, and then I'm going to go ahead and start to blend this out. And I'll have to step down to my lower subdivision and do this. And I'm going to save that. I'm going to save it for after we bake our layers. So I'd say I'm good with that for now. I'm going to go into my layers, and I'm going to step up to my highest subdivision so that I can bake all. Let's go out of record mode too. Bake all. There we go. Now let's go through and blend. That'll work a little bit better since we'll have the other layers underneath it to work with. There we go. All right, I'm going to go ahead and call that for right now. I'm going to look at this one last time, and I'm going to do some just pickup coloring. So like this light blue, I want to add a little bit of that in here, but let's add that speckled. And this is one of those cases where I would most definitely drop the RGB intensity, because I'm just kind of doing a little bit of pickup accents. I'm going to do this really fast. Let's bring that about 30. And let's even go lighter. And just hit the tip of his belly with that. Maybe a little bit down here. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and live with this color. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little bit of surface noise to get some texture on the model. So I don't want to do it uniformly. I want to do it in spots, so I'm going to mask out the belly. And part of the reason why I do my surface noise after I polypaint is so that I can see how it reads in conjunction with the texture. It'll help me determine the strength and the shape and scale and all that stuff. So let me invert that, soften the mask, hide the mask. I'm going to step up to a higher subdivision, and let's look at it from the bottom here. Go to surface, noise, and this is just going to be a general noise pass. I'll go over surface noise a lot more in depth later on. We just want a simple pass on this. So I'm bringing down my color blend. I'm going to bring up my noise scale and my noise strength. I'm going to bring up the strength higher than what I need. I'm going to increase the scale. Let's bring down the strength. There we go. Step to my highest subdivision. And then I'm going to click on Apply to Mesh to bake that into the sculpt. If it's not strong enough, and I don't feel it is, I'm going to turn my noise back on again and click on Apply to Mesh again. There we go. I feel good about that. That reads well from a distance. For the back of the skin, I'm going to leave that nice and smooth. I want that to be really, really shiny. So the reason why I applied noise to the bottom is I didn't want this to have quite as tight of a speck when we go into Maya. So that noise is going to scatter the light on the bottom, and then we'll get this contrasting, super smooth shininess on top, which will make them look wet and sort of weird. It's pretty cool. All right, so now that we have that, let's see, I got about 15-20 minutes to go. So are you guys hanging in there okay? Are you with me? All right, cool. Thank you very much, you guys. Yeah, what's your question, Simon? I'm not doing a retopology right now, but I'll try and answer you. If not, I can hang around a little bit afterwards and answer your question, or you can give me, you can shoot me an email. All right. So let me move forward. But what's your question about topology? Just curious. Maybe it's something quick I can answer for you. I have some claws on my creature, like Mana's claws. Yep. And they're folded in. Should I fold them out as I wanted them to move? You're talking about, to resculpt them, you're talking about, so you want to put them into a riggable position, right? Okay. Yes, I would do that if you're intending to rig it. Yes, I would move them out into a neutral state. And let me talk about that really quick. I only have a couple minutes. We'll go into this more in depth about rigging the character. Maybe I can pre-record a video for you guys since we're running short on time. It looks like we lost one person. I don't want to hold you guys up on the rest of your day. So let me just talk about this really fast. So if you were going to rig this character, or you're going to hand it off to somebody to be rigged, you would want the limbs fully extended, right? And you want to think about the range of motion for those limbs or for those components. What's the extreme of that motion? Like, how far do these arms raise up? Do they come out to here? Do they come up to here? Can they go all the way up to here? Right? So if you're looking at the range of motion, so look at the extreme, right? I'd say for this guy, the extreme of this is here. I can imagine him lifting those arms up and then folding them back to here so he can swim, right? Some sort of like alligator-like or eel-like, right? So then the other extreme would be likely down here, right? That's how far they would go in. So for rigging, I would want to hit them in an A pose, which is right here, but I'd want to make sure there's no bend in the arms, and I would also want to make sure that the hands are rotated straight out in line with the arms in their neutral state, right? So no bends in the digits or anything like that. For the mouth, it's the same thing. When it's closed, what's the extreme position? Is it down here? I want to hit it somewhere halfway in between. Same thing for the position of his body, right? I want to make sure that he is in a neutral state. So with regards to those claws that you're talking about, you would want them placed in a neutral state. You're preparing to rig those.